Hello, and welcome to Putting Blank to Right, the internet review show that doesn't just mindlessly pick flaws in a movie like just about anybody could do, but actually goes beyond that to suggest alternatives and ways to fix these flaws to make for the stronger movie. Today, to start the series off, I'll be taking a look at the cultural phenomenon that is Black Panther. And since I'm doing a review of Black Panther, I thought it would be good to show off my own little Black Panther. Albeit he's got white paws and he doesn't want to be on camera much longer. But my socks! Now, Black Panther isn't the first superhero film to star a black actor in its lead role. There's been Steel, Spawn, the Blade trilogy, hell even Catwoman. But here's the thing, any of those movies could, and I use this term loosely, work with just about anybody in the lead role. Black Panther could not. Replace Chadwick Boseman with any of the Hollywood Ryans or Chris's and not only would the movie fall apart, but several questions about his parentage and legitimacy to the throne would be raised. As well as its lead, Black Panther features a wealth of black talent, both on-screen in the majority of its cast and off-screen in writer-director Ryan Coogler, costume designer Ruth E. Carter, and many others that contribute to making this film such a cultural milestone. In addition to its cultural significance, Black Panther has also received critical acclaim. It is currently the highest rated MCU film on Rotten Tomatoes with a 97% fresh rating, and even received an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. But is this praise warranted? Or is it just critics inflating their reviews because of its significance? Well, I think it's a little of both. Personally, I don't think the film holds up to this praise, and I have it sitting comfortable as my 10th favourite MCU film thus far. And if that sounds controversial, just wait until I get around to ranking all of them. And by no means is it bad, and it does a lot right, but it does also do a lot wrong. And I want to help put those wrongs to right. What's the first thing that comes into your head when you think about the movie Black Panther? Aside from Wakanda Forever, is it the complex power struggle between King T'Challa and Eric Killmonger over the nation-state of Wakanda? Or maybe it's the beautiful world building of Wakanda, and how as a moviegoer the film respects you enough to not explicitly have to tell you everything that happens within this nation, but allows you to figure out some of the traditions and the ways of the Wakandan people for yourself. Let's face it, it's probably... What are those? Regardless, whatever it is that you first think of, it definitely is not any of the two romantic subplots the movie has going for it. T'Challa and Nakia's forced exit storyline is recycled garbage, and the lack of any chemistry between the two makes their interactions intolerably dull. She has very little purpose for the movie, and basically the two main things she does do, which is to get the herb for M'Baku in the third act, and also to basically get Shuri and Ramonda out of the country when Killmonger takes over, they could just as easily be done by Shuri or Ramonda. There's no reason why those two are suddenly any less capable of doing what she does. Yes, she's a spy for the outside world, but literally anybody could have just snuck into the garden, took a herb, and legged it out to the Jabari foothills. There's no reason for her to be the one that does it. And because of her lack of chemistry and any kind of real passion between the relationship she has with T'Challa, I just want her incredibly forced to be in the movie. Like, unless she's actually going to follow the route of her comic book counterpart where she becomes a character called Malice and is sort of antagonistic towards Black Panther, there's no real reason for her to be in this movie. She doesn't add anything, she doesn't do anything unique that no other character could feel, and she just feels like they could have just cut the movie by 20 minutes by taking her out, and I don't think anyone would have cared, and it would have been a lot more pleasant as a movie-going experience. The line! I was hoping you wouldn't bring this up. The line! Sorry, I'm just talking to my split personality. Oh god. The line! Okay. So pretty early on in the film, when T'Challa and Nakia are walking around the Golden City, Nakia does say something pretty important about Wakanda and the wider world. Play the clip.
Share what we have. We could provide aid and access to technology and refuge to those who need it. Other countries do it, we could do it better.
Now, I've been back and forth on whether this is a good thing for the movie or not. On the one hand, it severely reduces the impact of T'Challa being swayed by Killmonger's thinking. He's already been presented this worldview by someone he loves and trusts, so when T'Challa opens Wakanda to the world at the end of the film, Killmonger's legacy is somewhat cheapened. He wasn't that radical if close allies to the royal family shared in his view. However, on the other hand, the fact that Nakia and Killmonger largely share the same view does add validity and credence to his argument, as it's shown not just to be the ravings of a killer. So as you can tell, I'm pretty mixed on whether this helps the film or hinders it. But how would I put this wrong to right, or this mixed to this? It's just to right. Well, I've got a surefire way to do this. What if it was Shuri that presented this viewpoint instead of Nakia? Hold the phone. She's already been presented as being against the traditions of Wakanda.
We have watched with disgust as your technological advancements have been overseen by a child who scoffs at tradition.
From her dress sense, the way she holds herself, her informal dialect, she's kind of revolutionary. So adding the angle that she wanted to use all of the new technology she was helping to develop to benefit the world and not just Wakanda would be a no-brainer. She could even have a jibe later in the film after healing Everett Ross saying that if Wakanda had shared their tech, he could have been healed anywhere in the world, not just Wakanda. And he didn't have to be dragged to Wakanda at such a sensitive time when they're having questions of who's going to take the throne and this new sort of struggle about to emerge. Admittedly, in the hypothetical world where Wakanda had shared their technology with the rest of the world, Claw, Killmonger and T'Challa's situation would be very different at this time, because Killmonger would probably be all for what Wakanda was doing, but I doubt Shuri would particularly care about the second hypothetical world as long as she could get a solid jab at her brother. And it would even make more sense as to why T'Challa dismisses this perspective as so early on. Shuri has had a relatively sheltered life in Wakanda and doesn't know too much about the wider world of shady governments, terrorist groups, etc. She knows her father was killed in the States, but due to her being the Q of the movie, she hasn't really seen the outside world in anything other than news reports. Compared to both T'Challa and Nakia, Shuri is naive to the world. It makes sense that T'Challa would see her wanting Wakanda to help the world as being fanciful and idealistic. On the flip side, Nakia sees avoidable tragedy after avoidable tragedy just hours away from Wakanda, and T'Challa refusing to listen to her just makes him look like a very mean man. This is a family show, people. So long story short, remove Nakia from the story altogether and give her only line of importance to the character. It makes more sense to say the line in the first place. Shuri. Job done. What's next? Yes. Oh, crud. Yes, the graphic and what I said earlier about two romantic subplots in the film. As if one completely redundant romance wasn't enough for you, Ryan Coogler decided that 2 would be the perfect number. And in case you can't remember, because quite honestly, who would even remember this? The second romance is between Okoye and that guy from Get Out. So earlier I mentioned that the film had good world building, showing us the different facets of Wakandan life and their traditions in a way where the viewer can intuit what's going on for themselves. However, that's not to say the film has good character building, because it really doesn't. Going into Black Panther, we know precisely 2 characters, the Black Panther himself and Claw. However, every major character in Wakanda has grown up with each other, and as such they have close bonds that exist prior to the film starting. For this reason, characters have deeply established relationships that are glanced over in the movie because it would be pointless for the characters to elaborate on. But because the audience is included in what's going on, you can't feel that connection to the characters and their relationships. This is part of the reason why Nakia and T'Challa's subplot didn't work, as too much of it was based on interactions that occurred prior to the film's start, and as such it doesn't feel particularly warranted or interesting. However, at least they have the decency to have face-to-face interactions throughout the movie. Okoye and W'Kabi weren't afforded that luxury. Instead, we're introduced to their relationship when T'Challa goes to visit his old friend W'Kabi, another case of their bond being more significant than the movie would care to show. Okoye calls in on their holophones and they both tap them together.
My king, my love.
wow. Screw subtlety. Screw any sense of learning about these characters and understanding why they might be in a relationship together or why they might feel attracted to each other. Just outright say it. That blows my mind how a line like that can get through all these skits. Like, just because you're a remake of The Lion King, which in itself is a remake of Hamlet, doesn't mean your characters should speak like they're from Shakespearean times. Do you think she's like that with everything she sees? My pen, my phone, my Compare the Meerkat collection. So, these two have a mentioned romance, whose only purpose seems to be to show that Okoye is more loyal to her country than her beloved when she fights with T'Challa against W'Kabi later in the movie. Ooh, what a twist. I really thought that Okoye was going to side with
My love.
just because they're so alike and have shared so much screen time together. Was it ever in any doubt that she wouldn't want to protect Wakanda? No, it wasn't. So why have a pointless romance that leads to nothing but a completely obvious to read scene where the choices presented to her aren't of equal weighting? Having to choose between your true love and your country is a big moment. But because no time is given to show Okoye and W'Kabi have any feelings for each other, aside from
My love.
it wastes this potentially really great scene and makes Okoye's badass moment when she spurns him feel not really that badass. It's like, yeah, of course you're going to spurn him. He's just said, he hasn't said anything to her. They maybe shared a glance at one point. It's bad. Really bad. So how would I put this wrong to right? Well, I think the problem with this is that it's a little endemic of W'Kabi as a character in general. Bearing in mind he fills the role of T'Challa's best friend and Okoye's love interest, we don't really know a whole lot much about him, and he doesn't really do a whole lot in the film either. He hates Klaue, that much we know, but he reacts like a spoiled brat when T'Challa reveals Klaue escaped.
What's going on, brother? Huh? Where is Klaue?
He's not here. He slipped through our hands.
Sleep. For 30 years, your father was in power and did nothing. With you, I thought it'd be different. But it's more of this.
No, T'Chaka left Klaue alone for 30 years. T'Challa went after him just a couple of days into becoming king, caught him, then lost him to people he didn't even know about. That is nothing like his father. He was proactive, he actually got the job done, but he lost them to foes that he didn't know existed.
For 30 years, your father was in power and did nothing. With you, I thought it'd be different. But it's more of this.
He's nothing like his father in this respect. He actually wants to help, and he tried his best. He didn't just let Klaue run away for free for 30 years, selling vibranium, turning himself into a plastic action figure. He actually went after him. You idiot! Like, seriously, how can this guy not get it? Why do you think... It's your best friend as well. He's your best friend.
But it's more of this.
What? And because he gets so little development before Killmonger comes with Klaue's dead body, it isn't a surprise that the movie thinks it is when he ends up siding with Killmonger and betraying T'Challa. Again, I need to remind you, his best friend, but I mean, if they can glance over the fact that they're actually best friends and not bother showing us any of that, I mean, like, the friendship's not that good, strong anyway, so it's quite obvious that W'Kabi would betray him. So yeah, the character seems pretty much unsalvageable, right? Like, he's meant to be a best friend, he's meant to be a love interest, but he has so little screen time and so little time in general of the movies allotted to him and those two respective bonds. You don't really feel anything for him or about him, and he just seems to be a throwaway character, right? He seems to be more important than the film wants to give credence to. But there is actually an easy solution to this. Have him accompany Okoye and T'Challa to the casino in South Korea. Rather than him just being completely passive in Wakanda, we could see exactly how much it means to W'Kabi to finally get justice for what Claw did. And the scene where Black Panther is being filmed by the South Korean public, as he almost kills Claw, put W'Kabi in that spot. W'Kabi has a lot more anger towards Claw than T'Challa does, and this could show their different approaches. Even with all the cameras on him, W'Kabi is still primed to kill, until he sees T'Challa in the crowd shaking his head. This isn't the way. He puts his spear down, and they capture Claw and bring him in for questioning. W'Kabi's hatred shows through his questioning, something I'm sure Claw would no doubt make fun of. I killed your parents, huh? Son, I kill lots of people's parents. What makes you special? So when Claw is freed after W'Kabi has been in a position to kill him, we understand his anger at T'Challa better, and we'd be more willing to believe him choosing to side with Killmonger. In addition, by having W'Kabi and Okoye actually interact within the same physical space, we could see facets of their relationship, so that when Okoye stood with Wakanda over him, it actually felt impactful. Like, all they need to do, as I said, take Nakia out of the movie, she doesn't need to be in the movie, give that line to Shuri at the start, or in the first 20-30 minutes, sort that out, then have W'Kabi come with them to South Korea, and basically the majority of the film's flaws could be fixed. Next point. Now, before any of you get really mad at me, let me just say, and let me just make this one thing perfectly clear. I like Killmonger. Okay, good. That's out of the way. Now I can get to ripping him to shreds. Which I'm not actually going to do. There's only one small point about him, but I wanted to make this kind of seem more controversial than it actually was. So, long story short, Michael B. Jordan has a lot of charisma and charm in this role, and he's just so enjoyable to watch. His backstory is compelling, the way it ties into the prologue. I honestly didn't predict when I was seeing the film, and I found it really clever how he's that kid that's sort of left without a parent. And just, it's just great, and then every moment he's on the screen is immensely enjoyable. He's like a Black Macklemore. That being said, I do have one small issue with him. And when I say small issue, it's teeny, it's tiny, it's negligible. I've not seen anybody pick this up in any of the other sort of Black Panther critique videos. My main issue with Killmonger is he's actually too villainous. So my cat has just come into the room. Tigger, do you want to say hello to the people on YouTube? Of course you do. Of course you do. Here's a cat. And that'll get me a few hundred more views. Good boy. Try not to be too noisy. Gotta just run over a meerkat. Oops. Anyways, back on topic. What was I going to say? Yeah. Kind of no problem to have with Killmonger, him being the main villain, but I find him too villainous. Now hear me out. There was no real reason for Killmonger to have notched up hundreds of kills and marked his body accordingly. It's just there to emphasise that this guy is evil. Yes, of course he's been trained to take the throne of Wakanda most of his life, but why couldn't they have made him not be a murderer? His plan to use Wakanda's weapons to enforce worldwide revolution and take back control is already threatening enough, though not being explicitly evil, just misguided. And that's what I like about Killmonger. His heart is in the right place. He wants to see those that have been downtrodden all their lives take back control, but he's ultimately misguided in how to do this. That's twice I've used misguided in 2 sentences. I did a creative writing degree. Ha ha! There's a famous quote, there's a fine line between madman and genius, and Killmonger could have straddled this line perfectly. If he hadn't killed like 200 people, murdered his girlfriend in cold blood, and changed his fucking name to Killmonger. Tone it down, Marvel. We don't need you to signpost your villains. We can work it out on our own. So how would I put this to right? Simply just have him be a misguided villain and not a mass murderer. Have him change his name to something less evil. He thinks he's in the right, so why would he call himself Killmonger? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, you want to sound imposing to be a mercenary, but did you have to go to the extent where your name literally means trader in death? Why not something that hints at your power, but also shows the shame of the royal family? These are just a few examples of my own. They're all kind of bad, but like, you can get the picture from this. The Forgotten Son, Prince of Oblivion, the Exiled Pretender, the Lone Lion. But no, we get Eric Murder Man.
Burn it all!
And as another minor point, Eric? Really? You go to all this trouble to change your last name to Killmonger, but you choose Eric as your first name? As a Robot Wars fan, all I see is this.
Eric looks solid to me.
When black folks started revolution,
That's the first time we've seen
never had
Eric's
the
jaws
firepower.
open.
Of course, the real reason he's called Eric Killmonger is because he's a fairly well-known villain from the Black Panther comic books. Admittedly, the Killmonger in the comics is a dumb brute, so basically the complete opposite of the cinematic version, but, I mean, some people are going to know the name Killmonger and think, oh cool, that's that guy from the comics, I remember him. I didn't know the character, and I'm pretty big into Marvel comics before the film, so I don't think it particularly was necessary. I know, it's just a minor problem in the movie, but I did feel like I needed to address it because I hadn't really seen it elsewhere on other sort of Black Panther critiques. Next point. Now back onto the good stuff. Or rather the bad stuff. Or rather the sometimes good, sometimes bad stuff. Yeah, the action in Black Panther is kind of a mixed bag. After his unique fighting style was shown to us in Captain America Civil War, fans were really hyped about seeing how far this fighting style would go when Black Panther got his own movie. And the result is less than we hoped for. Now that's not to say that all the action is bad. Certainly the two fights on the waterfall between T'Challa and the two would-be kings is incredible. The raw passion in the fight, the desire to kill or force a yield, the shrinking arena, it's real pulse-pounding, adrenaline-pumping stuff. But as for the rest of the action, it's very middling. When Black Panther takes out the people traffickers at the start in Shadow, that was awesome. Seeing the confusion as grunts are dispatched by an unknown guerrilla force is immensely enjoyable. But after this scene in the Black Panther suit, things somewhat change. T'Challa visits Shuri and gets an upgraded suit, one that can absorb kinetic energy as purple and blast it out when it's convenient. So you take what was essentially the MCU version of Batman and give him Pulse's slow-mo powers? Great. You've somehow made this really cool guerrilla fighter that attacks with claws, flips and kicks into a discount Michael Bay effect. I don't understand why they even needed this. It comes into play a few times in the film, sure, but the scenes could have played out the exact same way regardless of whether the suit could absorb kinetic energy, only we'd actually get more of the close-range tactile fighting that made Black Panther so enjoyable in Civil War. Combine that with the fact that now Black Panther's prowess comes from a herb and not from him just being physically fit, and we have this weird mess of powers of the vibranium bulletproof suit, the magical strength-giving plant, and the kinetic go boom. Hell, you might as well throw in cosmic rays there just for all the good it would do. Seriously, what's wrong with Black Panther just being a great fighter in a protective vibranium suit? That worked before just fine, and now you're just adding gimmicks. And I know the flower was tied into the story and the mysticism of the Black Panther, but why couldn't they just be the key to the astral plane, not the granter or remover of the Black Panther powers? But if Black Panther had his powers, then he would easily be able to beat M'Baku and Killmonger when they have the combat trials, right? I mean, I'm fairly certain that's what the filmmaker said, so they introduced this stupid way of saying, you know what, all those things that Black Panther did before, that wasn't just him being cool, that's just a result of a silly flower. And we're going to just add this into the mythos just so we can have Black Panther basically be somewhat skilled rather than being really good in these couple of fights. But I'd argue it isn't really necessary for them to do that. The fight with M'Baku would still be a challenge even with Black Panther at quote-unquote full power. Without his vibranium bulletproof suit, Black Panther bleeds just as easily as any other man, and M'Baku's size and stature would still make him a worthy adversary. And later on, it kind of sends a weird message when Black Panther loses to Killmonger when he's at no power.
Well done to Eric.
Whee! But then they give him a herb, they give him like a herb steroid, and suddenly he becomes strong enough to beat him. Because if you can't beat him, take steroids. That's what I always say. For the record, I've never said this before, I don't agree with this statement, and I don't endorse steroids in any way unless medically prescribed. Like, why would the Panther Goddess Bast even bother with the heart-shaped herb? Why couldn't she just bestow the Black Panther powers upon anyone she deemed worthy of taking up that mantle? It just makes the herb seem like a cop-out. Tangent about magic plants over. Let's look at the third act's action and why it's such a major letdown. In essence, there are three main fights going on here. The first is between T'Challa and Eric on the great underground vibranium railroad. The second is between those who side with Eric, and it's such a dumb name, and those who side with T'Challa on the plains of Africa. The third is between Bilbo and spaceships, and quite frankly all are pretty abysmal. The fight between the army is just noise cluttered with clumsy CG rhinos. Hobbit here is just playing the latest Star Fox game.
Do a barrel roll!
And the fight between T'Challa and Eric is actually not as bad as many people say. It's a return to the tactile, up-close fighting that really defines Black Panther, only this time he's having to face the sins of the father. It makes for some really up-close and personal attacks, and you can just feel the tension oozing between the two of them. That is when they bother to focus on them. Because seeing our hero and villain duking it out one last time wouldn't have made for a good enough finale on its own. It has to be intercut with the other two fights going on. Are you kidding me? This is a horrible way to do action. You shouldn't just cut away when it gets to the good stuff, especially when the other two fights are really underwhelming. You never see more than 30 seconds of T'Challa and Eric fight, and as such their final fight becomes lost in the ether as opposed to being the main focus of the film and what the story has been building up to. It's been building up to the clash between the King and the Pretender, and they just butcher it so badly by keep cutting between the other fights. I don't care about the other fights. I want to see Eric versus T'Challa. I want to see their fight, their compassion, their tension, their different viewpoints. I want to see them battle with passion and honour and dignity. I don't want to see rhinos smacking into unnamed extras. I really don't. How did they end up having such a perfect setup and build up and then just, like, rather than capitalise on it, they're just like, you know what, we're right here, right at the peak, the pinnacle of film, we got this really cool thing that we could do. You know what happens? Down there, oh there's some rhinos. Put rhinos in the movie. They're funny, right? Funny CG rhinos. No! Focus on the good stuff. The good stuff is the tactile fighting between the King and the Pretender. Either way round you interpret that and have it be the focus. So how would I fix this? Well, it's quite simple really, and I don't know why the filmmakers didn't just do this in the first place. Have it so that when T'Challa tackles Eric and they've both fallen into the vibranium mines, you keep the focus on the plains of Wakanda. Finish up the fight here pretty snappy with W'Kabi surrendering to Okoye. Then cut to Watson as he faces the last aircraft and defeats it. As he runs away from the soon-to-be broken glass, have it shatter and shards of the glass fly down to the vibranium railroad. Here, you see that the fight between T'Challa and Eric shown in the reflections of the glass before a quick spin to their fight for real. This would emphasize how they're reflections of each other and how in another life they might have grown up best of friends. But through the mistakes of the past, they are now diametrically opposed and determined to kill their cousin. Then have their epic fight scene. Flips, the kicks, everything like that. Have the dagger fly through the air, stab Eric in the gut. Good night, sweet Eric, and flights of panthers sing thee to thy rest. And that's my take on multiple Oscar award-winning Black Panther. It may be my least favourite Marvel film of 2018, and yes, it does get a few things wrong, but it's still a thoroughly enjoyable film. the richness of the Wakandan world, the beautiful score, the power struggle of the royal family. So much of this film is amazing. I tell you to see it, but let's face it, you already have. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, liking, ringing that bell, all that good stuff. And with that out of the way, all that's left for me to say is Wakanda forever. So now that most people have clicked off, I can talk about Shuri, safe in the knowledge that with so few people still watching, my like to dislike ratio will remain positive. Hopefully. Even after what I'm about to say. Are you ready? I do not like Shuri. In fact, I hate her. Now this isn't a reflection on Letitia Wright. I think she's a great actor. Not rising star. BAFTA, great. Ooh, shots fired. But still, pretty good. It's just the character is so horrible. Not just the abomination of the "what are those?" but also quite a bit of what she says is just cringy, random girl humour. The type of which you'd expect from Tumblr. Remember when that was a thing? But if being as annoying as an itch you can never reach wasn't a reason enough to dislike her, but you also decided to make her the smartest character in the MCU. Marvel, did you learn nothing from Moon Girl? You tried to do this in the comics and everyone hated it, and now you're trying to do this in the movies? Learn from your mistakes. Christ. And yes, maybe I'm a little harsh as Moon Girl's genius is more obnoxious because she's 9 and Shuri is 16. But still, young geniuses that constantly talk about how smart they are is just very annoying. At least Q from James Bond has the decency to be humble about his inventions. Here, Shuri just wants to brag about them to the world. And the thing that baffles me the most is that people actually like her. And not just like as in, yeah, she's okay, I quite enjoyed her, but people are crazy for her. They want to see her as the next Black Panther. She was the breakout star of the movie. She even won a BAFTA for it. So maybe I'm the idiot here.
You're the idiot here!
Like, what am I seeing that no one else is seeing? I can only hope that in time Shuri will become the 21st century version of Steve Urkel. Sort of awkwardly charming in her antics at first, but in time as painful as putting your Meerkat collection in a blender. I won't let them take you away from me. I won't let the mean men take you away from me.